During a routine mission execution, an attack suddenly struck. Panic. Jack. Wake up, buddy. Wake up. Look into my eyes. Look into my eyes. Can you look into my eyes? Wait, everyone. Can you wait for me? Luckily, the bullet didn't hit anything vital, just went through his shoulder. After recuperating, he hurriedly put on his uniform and returned to his unit, but friends advised him to retire home, using his injury as an excuse. But his refusal was like a bird refusing to fly out of his cage after all. Losing his beloved girl and having only an autistic father left him no hometown attachment. You know what? Do you now? I might only get one job done. I will play with you, Jack. And then brave John headed back to the battlefield. Surprises strike when you are at ease. That day, the unit told him to rush home as his father was seriously ill. The doc told him his father collapsed from a stroke. Living alone for years, by the time the doc arrived. He was unaware of how long he had been unconscious, worsening his condition. John felt deep guilt had he heeded the captain's advice to retire. His father wouldn't have suffered this. Returning alone to his desolate home, he couldn't hold back his tears. A home without Dad's warmth could never come back. The oven in the house no longer smelled of warm bread, just the carefully collected coins by his father. John, unsure how to convey his inner pain, wrote a letter and waited for his father to wake. Sitting right by his father's bedside, he read it aloud to his father, and at that very moment, all the resentment that had existed between him and his father completely dissipated. He bravely showed love for his father. Fatherly love is mountain-like, heavy yet fragrant, sometimes a heavy burden. We don't know how to conquer that peak to appreciate a father's deep and profound love. At this moment, his father reached out a hand. John quietly grasped it and placed it on his face, just like when he was born, crying in his father stroked his head lovingly, the last time he felt paternal love. His father's heart was full of love after his father died. He decided to rejoin the army. Before departure, he found Savannah, seeking what happened and at least a breakup reason. But when he met Savannah, he finally understood the truth. Savannah had married their neighbor Tim, whose son also had daughters. She had cancer herself, and out of kindness and long-term contact, Savannah married Tim to care for both of them. To avoid being accused of ruining a marriage, Savannah chose to cut ties with John. John pressed Savannah for an explanation, begging her to tell him the truth in person. But she said she didn't want to call because she feared that hearing his voice would change her mind. She said she was sad. Leaving his life was painful for her, but what could she do? She couldn't bear the vacuum of loneliness and helplessness during his service, so she needed someone to rely on, someone who could give her hugs anytime, even if he was a patient. Although Tim didn't have advantages as a husband, he was truly a mature man who cared for her, while Tim was battling cancer himself and needed to take care of his young son. So one gave lightly, the other silently waited. Both knew they sought. Tim knew deep down there was a soldier still there, yet they remained together so naturally, because they both needed warmth to get by, and the only reason to keep living was to continue loving you. After hearing this, a wave of guilt surged through John, reminiscent of losing his father. Finally, the two embraced, all misunderstandings cleared. Savannah showed John every letter, brimming with sweet memories. Yet, in them, Savannah accidentally knocked over a cup of water. When John saw that familiar gesture, his heart stirred again, but he kept it right. He knew things couldn't hurt, so he told Savannah he was leaving. She saw him off reluctantly at the door, asking, "We'll meet soon, right?" Subtitles, but this time she didn't receive a response from John. Savannah, with tears welling up in her eyes, kept waiting for those words. But in the end, John resolutely said goodbye, and Savannah's tears overflowed. That year's love vanished, all overcome by reality. On return, John hit the wheel, muttering going home. He kept saying he wanted to go home, homesickness tearing at him as he endlessly repeated wanting to go home, over and over, saying he wanted to go home until the tears flowed. When tears streamed down his face as he gripped the steering wheel, he knew the pain, but chose to return to the army. He knew this love was impossible, sold his father's coins to a collector, and donated all the money, anonymously to Savannah and her husband. Actually, when they held hands looking at the moon and the beach. In that little room, listening to his brother's laughter while strumming the guitar and singing, making promises, and during that awkward first kiss in the rain, it was destined that this love would always be twisted. Breakups and partings are always sad. How could they part after loving each other so much? Asking questions is always futile, so remember the part that loves you and erase the sorrowful part. Did they deeply love each other? Maybe the summer sea knows, as do their letters and every forked road they took. They lift heads, still see the moon, knowing the answer. Years later, Mother Earth died. They unexpectedly met on the street after going through hardships, and finally awaited a warm embrace. Subtitles: Love sacrifices fulfill more. It's an era of love insecurity. Long-distance relationships, erode confidence, and cause anxiety. We're not cynical. Blame people and love of this era? Maybe due to our leaving the nest void of endless expectations.